Welcome to The World Today. I'm Waqas Majeed Khan. Today we're covering three stories in our program. The first one is to do with the Indian elections. More than 142 million Indians are eligible to vote in the first phase today, which will cover a total of 898.9 million people, 20 states. We'll talk about that in some detail. Our second topic is to do with the foreign journalists that have been given access to the so-called madrasa site of the Balakot strike. We'll talk about that in some detail as well. And finally, our Foreign Minister, Mr. Qureshi, has cautioned the world over arms sales to South Asian states. To talk about these issues, we have in our studios our esteemed guests. Let me introduce to you, first of all, we have Dr. Ghulam Mujaddid Saab, and along with him, we have Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal Saab. Sir, let's start with the Indian election itself. Before we begin the conversation, sir, what would you like to say about the nature of the manifestos that have been presented by the Congress as well as the BJP? Do you find a marked difference between their approach? What's your opinion, sir?
I think the election manifestos are supposed to reflect the political parties' perception of how people see the people whom they want to serve and appease and get votes. So I think BJP election manifesto probably wants to make certain fundamental changes in the constitution regarding status of Jammu and Kashmir. That is very bellicose, and that's not good for India itself, because if that Article 370 is revoked or it is toned down, then the very special status of India, the Jammu and Kashmir and its status in India would be eroded. And that is not a welcome thing at all, because it will generate to further conflict within India and AJK and the Kashmir part that is with Pakistan. Then on the other side, it is very heartening, although I have not read it, but Congress's manifesto says that they would like to concentrate on resolution of the Kashmir issue, which is very heartening actually. But more importantly, it reflects quite a cross-section within the Indian polity that actually wants to resolve the Kashmir issue through peaceful means.
In a way, sir, Mr. Rahul Gandhi's tweet regarding the manifestos kind of sums it all up. And I'd like Jaspal Saab to comment on this, sir. The Congress manifesto, he says, was created through discussion, the voice of a million Indian people. It is wise and powerful. The BJP manifesto was created in a closed room, the voice of an isolated man. It is short-sighted and arrogant. Would you agree with this perception, sir?
No, I do not agree with this, because BJP is a political party, a very strong political force, and at the same time, BJP has no capacity to win the election at the moment. You can debate and you say that there are certain things which are not acceptable. BJP is working more, though it is not a character of the Union of India. That was basically based on secularism. Their constitution is based on secularism, but unfortunately, the present manifesto of BJP reflects Hindutva. And then it reflects what the RSS or you can say extremist forces or hawks in India. So in that context, one can say it. But on the other side, of course, where the merit lies in this tweet, that merit is, if you see that in 2014, Prime Minister Modi won the election because of his one slogan, vote for Modi, he will bring economics.
Yes.
And he miserably failed to deliver. And this time he built this hysteria. Since 2 years as he was building this hysteria of war. And that's why when he came into this, you can say his manifesto also reflecting similar kind of thing. When he says that we are going, this is not a new in their manifesto. I can make it, even during the time of 90s,
right, sir.
Their manifesto said that Article 370 from the Constitution of India should be amended. They are not in this special autonomous status in favor of that Kashmir. So you can say now he's again reiterated that. Article 35A, they are trying to get rid of it, not even if they do not get a majority through the Supreme Court verdict. Because the Supreme Court of India has, since 1970, though it did not interfere in the politics occasionally or regularly, but it always maintain this judicial review power.
Right,
So
so
by
but recently we saw this move being made by the BJP
Yeah,
and the
that-
courts actually did shoot it down.
Exactly. Where the issue lies in the Congress is also a mature political party in India since 1947, and on the basis of that, now here what we have to take from this tweet, that is more important. If you see, the election campaign in India is just like it has been transformed, or Modi is conducting this election campaign, keeping in mind as something like presidential system of the government.
Sir, I'm glad that you spoke about that because I wanted to bring this to your attention that the Election Commission of India has taken a strong notice of Mr. Modi's remarks at a Maharashtra rally in which he said, let me quote, I want to tell first-time voters that your first vote be dedicated to the soldiers who carried out the so-called strike in Pakistan. Can you first vote be dedicated to the soldiers who died in the Pulwama attack? Now he's asking them, or he's trying to stir their emotions and trying to bring the military into the electoral process.
This is very big challenge to the India's Election Commission. India's Election Commission, through the decades, evolved. Generally, whatever it gives to their, you can say, Election Commission credibility was not questioned earlier. Election Commission, prior to the starting of election, when there was you can say they came out with the pictures of the soldiers, because in 2017, first time Prime Minister Modi used this military signatures or military soldiers or these kind of things in the UP province. But this time when the Congress protested, prior to the starting of the campaign, Election Commission issued some kind of a, what you call it, proper code of conduct. And in that code of conduct, it was probated that you cannot politicize your armed forces. Even I read one of the ex-army chief, army senior officers of India, I cannot say army chief. One is Admiral who was there, also senior, Ramdas. He wrote letters to the, you can say, Election Commission of India. And then the other one said, because recently one of his chief minister candidate in the UP province made this statement, Modi's army. He said it's a treason. Now, this statement which you are reading, which I think made on the Monday of this week, 2 days back, in that what he was saying, he was asking them you should vote a person, not only this, so he said you should vote a person who took the revenge of the Pulwama. So this is not acceptable because he has been trying to politicize armed forces of India, is trying to cash these kind of things, and that's why Indian media, which is governed by the powerful, you can say, sector, which we call it corporate sector, and which is very much beneficiary of the military industrial complex or defense industry in India, they are also supportive to this. So I think that this election or the way the Prime Minister Modi is conducting the election, in his speeches, he's not only raising certain things just for the sake of, it is just like it is going to undermine the credibility of India's election commission as well, which was one of the strengths of India's political system or a democratic system.
In other words, he's saying that vote for me because I represent the Indian army. That's what he's basically saying.
No, when he makes this kind of stuff, he can say vote for me as a politician.
Yes, sir.
But he cannot say that
voting for
I'm
me
taking
means
the
that you're
revenge
waiting
of
for the
Pulwama.
army. Absolutely, sir.
That is a question.
When we talk about the manifestos, sir, how important are really the manifestos in terms of the perception of the voters? Because we've seen previously, if we analyze the election results, they showed that people have voted according to their caste, ancient hierarchy that is outlawed by the constitution, but still people tend to vote for the castes rather than for the manifestos. Do you agree with that perception, sir?
Well, the quality of democracy and the quality of electioneering in a particular country, it varies. It is not in the ideal this thing. Otherwise, ideally, the manifestos of the main political party must reflect the popular will or popular feelings amongst the masses, whom they want to get vote from. So I mean, India is akin to many developing countries where the local politics is very, very important than the central or the manifesto politics. So that is what can say. But then it is very heartening that in India there are positive points also of this thing that the very large number comes out and votes in the election. And in last time it was 2014, it was 66% and more, which is a large number and all that.
Yes, sir.
So even if there are distortions of local level, where the local politics, hold sway over the manifesto politics, even then, the largeness in the Indian voting numbers, might nullify that negative effect.
All right, sir. I also want to bring your attention to what Mr. Kejriwal, the Aam Aadmi Party candidate, has alleged. Sir, he says, he has put the question to the Election Commission, says that, are these elections really fair? There have been votes that have been deleted on an unprecedented scale. He says that there are reports coming from all across India that votes have been deleted, and why are all the faulty electronic voting machines seen to be voting always for the BJP? Why do they delete voters that turn out to be anti-BJP voters? What is happening, Election Commission? Are these elections fair? This is the question that Kejriwal is asking at the moment, sir.
This is a very important thing. We have to give a fair chance to this. In India, if you see that it's a big state, and in the periphery, and it's not only in India, in every country, developing country, at the periphery has a lack of control. And at the periphery during the election, some kind of the malpractices are acceptable. But this person is talking while sitting in Delhi. His party is popular in the Delhi or from there. So if he's raising this question on the credibility of election system and voting system, and what you have pointed out very rightly, that he's articulating everywhere this point, that why this, and machine is basically what you call it soft, Microsoft. And if you can change it, naturally it is usable, it can be changed. And that's why in many countries, this machine voting is not getting popularity.
Yes, sir.
Otherwise, it must be. Look, if you have, and if he's raising this issue, it says, it strengthens my previous point that the Election Commission of India has been gradually or very fastly, I can say,
compromised,
losing its credibility. I cannot say compromise, these reports will come later on and that, but as a, you can say, observer, or as a just as sitting on the other side, or what I see it, that if these kind of the allegations are raised on the Election Commission, and why these allegations are raised, normally the Indian leadership avoid to make or politicize the election.
Absolutely, sir. Previously, they've actually
they
talked about how good their system is.
They never politicized.
Yes, sir.
But this time, if they are using this thing, it is also a reflection or a confirmation that what the Election Commission of India had issued the already code of conduct, the political parties are not following that code of conduct, and at the moment the allegation is only on Bharatiya Janata Party.
Well, sir, moving forward, let's talk about the situation in Kashmir, sir. During these elections, there's a complete shutdown that's being observed as usual, because last time also we saw that the turnout was maybe, I think, 7% or something. This time it's going to be even less than that. What does that indicate to you, sir? And furthermore, what should it really indicate to the wider world, especially looking at observers who are observing the Indian election?
Well, this argument needs a little kind of an insight into it. When the first time elections took place in state of Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian leaders, the Congressites at that time, said that, well, the people of Jammu and Kashmir actually have spoken that, and now they are part of India. So India is part of India. The J&K is part of India. However, what is obvious that throughout the electioneering, the participation of those people who are supposed to give vote was less than even 7% at times, much less than 7%, which means that this is not their representation. They are rejecting the whole political system, that mets out the treatment of almost a subjugated masses to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. So what it means is, what it manifests is the complete rejection of the Indian political system by the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
And sir, they've also jailed a number of Kashmiri leaders. Mr. Yasin Malik has been moved to the Tihar jail. What does that indicate to you, sir?
Look, this is a reconfirmation of what we have seen in the international media, starting with that, say, even the international community has started realizing. I can give you a reference of the 2018 July report, which was published by the United Nations in which they have first time accepted that there are very much, you can say, atrocities. And on the basis of that, they tried it. And what the Majeed Sahab was earlier pointed out, that
Sir,
it's not first time,
I'm sorry,
7%.
unfortunately, I have to interrupt you, sir. We need to go on a short break. So just take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back after the break. Jaspal Saab, you were talking about the reaction of the Kashmiris to these Indian general elections. Please continue, sir.
I was saying that the Kashmiris have always opposed the general election or even the state elections. We have seen that in the state elections, like when these Kashmir leaders are elected, even at that time there is a very lesser turnout. Sometimes if the other, like last time BJP fired and it was desiring 44 plus and it was thinking that if they won the election, they will change the Kashmir on the administrative basis into 3, Jammu Kashmir. And at that time, we have seen that these Kashmiris have voted for the Kashmiri leader. At least they should be not a shift. Apart from that, if the election is the measuring or barometer for whether the people are supportive to them or not, I think that all the elections gives us this indicator that they are not with them, and especially in the recent year, especially this movement which started in '86 and then it came up or flared up in '88. Since that time to date, if you focus on the Kashmir, Kashmir is just burning and the violence has now increased. That there was time when the people of Kashmir were not striking on the, I mean that the government forces or law enforcement agencies, but now they are striking. Even in the recent history we have seen, like Burhan Wani, he was the son of a schoolmaster. So it means that people who, families who are working in the government institution of India, even their children are not ready to comply with their parents, or you can say they are challenging the state rate. So this reflects that in the Kashmir, India has lost its entire control, and that's the reason. The BJP very categorically came up with what it desires,
Right.
and it will further going to alienate. It's not only in the Kashmir, if you see that the Kashmiris are now suffering in entire India. Their business have been destroyed.
And Muslims altogether, sir.
Muslims, but earlier the Kashmiris were given some kind of advantages, but now they are not. So with this, we can find that with the passage of time, Kashmiris are further alienated from the Delhi.
All right, sir. I also want to bring to the attention of our viewers the violence that is now being seen in the Indian elections, which was previously maybe not as much. So we have a TDP leader killed in Tadipatri town of Anantapur in a voter polling booth in Jammu, was manhandled by BSF forces. So these events are also on the rise. An IED blast was reported in Maharashtra. Unfortunately, there were no injuries reported. So what does that indicate to you, sir?
Well, I think it is the observation by the international community and the scholars such as Jaspal Saab that the environment for these Indian elections is unfortunately acrimonious. It is not very friendly and gelled environment within the Indian polity. So that speaks of fissures within Indian society. It had to be there because of the policies. The BJP has relied on the politics of conflict and divisiveness within India itself. And there are constant allegations by the Congress and other enlightened people that the secularity of Indian constitution and that of Indian society is being put into question, like the treatment meted out to the Kashmiris, to the Muslim minority that you just pointed out. So these things will manifest. Chhattisgarh is a state that is, in rebellion to the central government, and there is, almost a separatist war within India that is going on for so many years. So Indian polity is not, they are not trying to bring their society fabric. They are not suing it, but they are disrupting it for their own, for their own tragedy, short-sightedness.
Right, sir. One final thing that has also come out, sir. A very interesting report by NDTV. 213 candidates have criminal cases against them. What do you think about that, sir?
I think that this report is lesser important because in the India's political system, we have seen that the criminals, they have, or in other developing states as well, you find that this number is there. But the question is why this figure is important for us, because we say India has a democracy since the beginning, and there was no interruption, and then the system should mature. But unfortunately, the system has not matured, and that is the reflection of these criminals' names and these kind of the reports that. And then, if you see what the Congress is today alleging, Prime Minister Modi, though he himself tried to present a person who has no family, who has no businesses because he is Pathak Charak or something like that in the RSS, but you have seen the Rafale business deals. So the corruption, I think, in the Indian polity is part of that polity. So we do not here say, oh, Indian political system or Indian politicians or Indian institutions, they are pure institution and there was no corruption. No, there is a corruption.
Right.
And these reports are indicating that you are electing the corrupt people.
Very unfortunate, sir, but we'll move on to our second topic, and that is when foreign journalists were given access to the madrasa site where the Balakot strike is said to have taken place. A group of international journalists, which were mostly from India, as well as ambassadors and defense attaches from various countries, were taken to that site in Balakot. They were shown the situation on the ground. How important do you think this move was, and why do you think it wasn't done earlier, sir?
I think, I think it has been done in pretty much normal time, you see, because whatever the ISPR and Pakistani media showed was based on facts. I mean, there was nothing that was inaccessible or something. It was all there, and that is what we maintain. Now we have taken them along, because India is constantly, staying with their untruths and this thing, so that the international community, especially the journalists and the ambassadors and defense attaches that reside within our capital, they can for themselves see on the ground that whatever was told to the world and
it's still being repeated by the Indians.
By the Indian is actually wrong. And they can see it for themselves, the craters that were created or the so-called damage that occurred was actually in the same scenario as was depicted by our sources to the world.
Absolutely, sir. And
if you allow me, I can add here that...
Sir, please. I also wanted to share with you that India, on the other hand, has refused to share any proof with the world about the airstrikes in Balakot, and Pakistan has brought forward.
I think that international journalists, people who are contributing in the international media, in both print and electronic media, they immediately rushed at that place. If you see in the beginning, people have shown that there was the destruction, the trees, X, Y, Z, but there was no casualty. That was very much there. Now, when the state organized this visit, maybe it was possible and it had been before, keeping in mind. But naturally, when the state organized something, especially in which you have foreigners, in which you have ambassadors, you have to go through a proper security arrangement. And this area is very much in that nearer to the LOC, and the probability and the way the tension is between India and Pakistan. And we cannot expect any civility from the Indian side at this moment till the time Prime Minister Modi, and especially when he is in this war hysteria, war mongering, and he was trying to find out even a small gap from where his armed forces can penetrate and take the revenge of 27 or XYZ, because they sent the aircraft, they lost it, they sent this submarine, they were detected, and in the naval terminology, if the submarine is detected, it means the submarine has gone.
Absolutely.
Whether we hit it or not,
it's as good as dead.
They deployed the missiles, we learned it, and we gave them a message that if you fire the missile, we are going to respond or escalate it. So by this way, it was difficult for the government of Pakistan to arrange this level of the thing. But generally, this area was not hidden from the journalists. Journalists were there, they were reporting from the same places. Now, second point is, which you raised the second question, evidences. This is an interesting point. We are living in an era of information, but it's an era of disinformation. That you make we always expect that there is too much correct information is available. When I say information, disinformation, this is a paradox. That you see this social media, you see the other things, and we have seen in the India case. There was, on our side, there was a cricket taking place, people were relaxed, though there's a high alert. On the Indian side, if you see the media, they have a war rooms. And they were projecting why the big business, military industrial complex, that was contributing in it. So the information was very much distorted. I failed to understand, 2-3 days back, one of their senior Air Force officer, he was making a press conference and he was saying, and he was repeating the same thing of F-16. But he failed to produce any wreckage. He was trying to, thanks God that we captured one of their, you can say, pilot. Otherwise, they say, oh, we have just, you can say, whitewashed and we are using it. Because
interestingly, sir, there were some experts on Indian media who refuted the Indian
there
claims.
There are many.
And there were other journalists
I recall
who also...
one of their senior Air Force officer, he was sitting in this and they showed him a picture and he said, look,
that's not an F-16.
My understanding is this is not a picture of the F-16, something like that. And then after that, so they started checking like this. They failed to provide the evidences of the surgical strike on which they claimed on 28, 29, intervening night in September 2016. They failed to provide the evidences that at Balakot they hit you can say, training camp. They failed to provide any evidence of F-16. Now, Foreign Affairs report, to whom we can look. The Foreign Affairs, Americans are the allies of the Indian. Interestingly, international media is deliberately ignoring these distorted or concocted stories which are regularly produced by India. Why? BBC is getting a big business from India, from the Indian business community. So that's why international media is, as you people are also aware, media is driven from where the advertisement is coming, its interest is there. So, but now I fail to understand why the international as well as Indian media is not asking the Indian government that please provide us some factual sort of things. And those facts are missing. That's the same way when we go at the international forums, what we say, okay, if you come with us, we will take you to the Azad Kashmir wherever you wish. And you see by yourself. But if you go, can Indian claim that we take any foreigner in the Indian occupied Kashmir? Because
not at all.
Everywhere there is more than around 7 lakh personnel are deployed. So it's very much a barricaded sort of situation. So Indian media, BJP has failed. There was an expectation, and in the beginning, it's very important. The Congress leadership or some senior leaders had raised these issues at that time. They said these 300 figure, it's questionable. They said that if they made a strike, please provide us some kind of information. And we failed to find any fact regarding the F-16, you can say destruction. But what happened? The Prime Minister Modi shifted the entire debate. And he said, look, these people are talking the language of Pakistan. And he used this national security, this war hysteria, this entire sort of thing, nationalism, as a mean to curtail that criticism. So that's why, and he's successful. And that reflects that if you distort the information and then you start debating it, you create a non-existing reality or a fiction, you make it in a reality.
Do you think that that's going to have any impact on the Indian elections, sir?
No, look, we have to be very careful. This reality that India, the Prime Minister Modi is you can say, is a doer. He has started this, adopted muscular approach in the foreign policy. He has been selling this argument not now, since 2.5 years, that I have a courage to take the revenge, I have courage to challenge the Pakistan, nuclear armed Pakistan, I am doing this. And this is not new. Even in 2018, September, they celebrated Surgical Strike Day. Interestingly, my personal book is coming within next week out, the Surgical Strike Stratagem, Brinksmanship and responses. In that book, when I was doing a research in the last 2 years, since 2017 I started working on it, I didn't get even a reliable source in which one can accept there was some kind of a strike. Even let's say on the, it was just a duel on the LOC, which is a routine.
Absolutely.
Even the Indian scholars like Swami and Praveen Swami, his video is available in which he's saying there was nothing like that. But in the media, they presented this similar sort of thing in a way, and he succeeded in creating the war hysteria. In this creation of the war hysteria, there are military industrial complex, there are armed forces, because the armed forces required in the January, February, their defense budgets are finalized and their particular budgets are finalized. So they were very active, and he himself. So in these distorted information which he provided, it has been accepted by their media, or no, by their public as an information, and where the Congress failed. So that's why you find his rating for 5% increased. Otherwise, he was losing this election.
Right, sir. Well, sir, we're almost out of time, and I would just like to have your comments on Mr. Qureshi's statement where he's cautioned the world over arms sales to South Asian states. What do you make of this statement, sir? How important is it, and do you think it's going to have an effect?
Well, I think our foreign minister is very right in his observation or in his advocacy that South Asian states must not import arms. Rather, we should concentrate on eradicating poverty from the region. I think this is a very noble observation.
So it's actually the other way around, because he's asking the weapons exporting states to not export arms rather than asking the importing states to not import arms.
No, but whatever. There is something of a security dynamics that goes around in the area, and it is important to study that. Pakistan is definitely, it's very careful while importing things or spending on its defense.
Pakistan has always said that we're against an arms race.
We are against an arms race. So because we cannot afford it, and I think Pakistan has to go to the peaceful options or something. So I think more than telling the ones who export arms, which they should, their arms export towards South Asia actually would make a volatile situation more dangerous.
Absolutely,
by the induction, by the sending of arms.
Yes.
That is no doubt a point. But as regards the states themselves, for example, India, there is a report by Stockholm International Peace Research Institute that does the working, lot of genuine working on the imports and exports and the armed forces,
deals.
arms deals and armed forces of the world. India is one of the top importers of arms
in the world right now.
In the world,
yes.
And India's expenditure onto the arms has increased in the last 4 years to about as much as 24% than the previous years. If there was 100% arms import, India imports around 12% of the world's 100% arms. There's a single country that imports about that percentage.
Yes.
It's criminal. Why the managers of the world, the pillars of the international system are actually, for their own interest, are fueling war and conflict to the very dangerous and unprecedented levels by sending the arms and the countries who import the arms.
And that too, sir, at their own peril, because if the situation gets out of control, then it would be nothing less than a nuclear holocaust.
That's absolutely true. And I was talking of the security dilemma. Once India imports arms, Pakistan reluctantly has to import some proportionality because we are then concerned with our security. And that is where the dynamic starts and all.
So would you like to comment?
I think that the Foreign Minister of Pakistan very rightly commented on it, and he tried to sensitize the international community that you are sending the arms to India for the sake of your economic or for the sake of your business. Try to understand that these arms are going to create a havoc here. This is one side, but we have to live we are living in a realistic world. In this realistic world, unfortunately, norms have no value. The value is your military, your economics interests. And he was trying to, yesterday when he talked in this conference of CISS, he very rightly pointed out that you are always blaming us. Why you are not seeing that the country has been importing billions of dollars arms, and even interestingly, in the last few years, India imported more than 15 billion US dollars arms only from the United States. And now American New York Times story says that it has a vintage military. So in this, obviously, what I was earlier pointed by Majeed Saab, that security dilemma, the arms race, and then they say to us you should not improve or you should not modernize your weapons. Look, if we are not going to import their, if I today go and buy Americans or the Europeans arms, they are ready to sell. But if I can make my own, let's say I can increase my battlefield nuclear weapons inventory, they start talking us and shouting on us. So this is a biasism, frankly speaking.
Absolutely. So these
foreign
double
ministers
standards
try
are
to
unacceptable.
reflect that. They try to see, don't tell us, tell the who is the problem maker in this region.
Absolutely, sir. We leave it at that. Thank you so much for taking out the time and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and as always, I like to say, please do draw your own conclusions from what you've heard. And on that note, it's goodbye.
Of initiatives and overtures which Pakistan extended, but India rebuffed all of them. This didn't have to do with elections only. I mean, they are a factor, but not the factor. You see that this kind of persistence and this kind of obstinacy is likely to continue after the elections.
So what is the end game in your opinion? I mean, what exactly do the Indians want from us? At the end of the day, we are a nuclear armed country and so are they. What kind of a middle road are they looking for? Or they want to just keep it in perpetuity?
They want to keep it in perpetuity, and at the same time they just want to completely minus Pakistan from their calculus, which at times sounds so unrealistic and ambitious kind of a thing, but that's what they are doing. You see, they are writing off Pakistan from their mindset, from their policy.
It doesn't seem like that at all. I think they're completely hung up on Pakistan.
That's the reality. I'm talking about the rhetoric. I'm talking about the rhetoric, the way they are presenting it, that they have got nothing to do with Pakistan. They only have some prolonged conflicts with Pakistan, and that's it. And they are no more concerned about Pakistan. This is the rhetoric. This is not the reality, though. But at the same time, I'm not that greatly optimistic about this thing coming in the near offing.
Well, when you spoke about the 35A and Article 370 issue and the status of Kashmir being changed by the BJP government if they were to win according to their manifesto, it was also the part of their manifesto last time, and they were not able to do it in this particular term.
They didn't have that majority. I think it will need a constitutional amendment.
So, moreover, Mr. Khan thinks that it is, again, just electioneering slogan rather than has any basis in fact, because he feels that if that were to be the case, as you've also mentioned, sir, that it would blow things out of proportion and lead to a really bad situation and chaos. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's quite possible, because in electioneering, they can promise moon to the electorates, and they can go to any extent.
And furthermore, sir, the Prime Minister has also further extended an olive branch to Indians, saying that we are very serious about removing or dismantling any terrorist organization that might be functioning in the country, and they've also proved that by taking concrete actions on the ground. So why is India still not willing to engage with Pakistan, despite Pakistan's overtures and the actions that we've taken?
I'm afraid that Indians are not good at table talk. At the negotiating table, if you look at the commentaries after the Shimla Agreement, so when Shimla Agreement was signed and our troops who were held POW, they were brought back. So the commentaries, they gave credit to Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and Pakistan's Foreign Office for the great job they did.
All right, sir.
So what I want to say is that I think they are shy. They're shy because Prime Minister has gone one step ahead and he said, well, okay, if you want that only to discuss terrorism, we are ready to discuss terrorism. And they haven't come back to that, because that was the Indian condition, that before resuming the composite dialogue, we would want to discuss the issue of terrorism.
Yes.
So earlier we were reluctant. We said that no, it is part of the composite dialogue. But Prime Minister Imran Khan has said, if you want to discuss terrorism exclusively, we are ready. So I think in that respect, Indians have been put on the defensive. Indians are on the defensive as far as negotiations are concerned, because their only mantra of stopping or ending that so-called terrorism from Pakistan or the sanctuaries, that is a non-starter.
And it also seems that they've pretty much lost the war of optics, if you really look at it, sir. But thank you very much for taking out the time and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and as always, we like to say, please draw your own conclusions from what you've heard. And on that note, it's goodbye.
Do anything in which a lot of officers died. They shot down the aircraft well within our own territory, and we did not respond to them. And during Zardari's government, it is insinuated and a known fact that the Indians wanted to come and drop few bombs over here, and Zardari is known to have told Kiani that okay, it will be okay. He said no, it's not going to happen. We do not want to let them feel that they can do with whatever they want with Pakistan.
Absolutely, sir. We'll leave it at that because we're completely out of time. But thank you very much for sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and as always, I like to say, please draw your own conclusions from what you heard. And on that note, it's goodbye.
Anyone wants to invest in subcontinent, either it is India or it is Pakistan. So show a bad face of Pakistan to the world so that investment comes to India. So that is the whole gamut which is being played by the Indians. And Indians have very categorically said right from the day of the partition and that they will never let Pakistan survive. And I will, end my comments by just one saying of the Quaid-e-Azam, that all those who are living in India, Muslims living in India, they and their next generation will keep proving their loyalty to the Hindus.
Well, sir, thank you very much for taking out the time and sharing your views with PTV World. Before we end the program, I would also like to talk about a local issue which is far more important, and that is we are all breathing poison, unfortunately. According to many reports in the news, the reality is inescapable. It is terrifying. The air we breathe is killing us. Pakistan is the second on the list of top 10 countries with the highest mortality due to air pollution. India and China are in first place, unfortunate for them. Well, in Pakistan, 128,000 deaths were attributed to the cause of air pollution. The burden is incalculable. Air pollution is the fifth leading cause of premature deaths globally, which makes it more lethal than malaria and road accidents, malnutrition, and nearly as deadly as tobacco use. Unfortunately, minors in South Asia can expect to have their lives cut short by 30 months due to the toxic air. Pakistan's entire population lives in the areas that exceed WHO's air quality guidelines. Many countries have declared a war on particulate matter a few years ago. They've strictly implemented emission limit regulations. They've begun to adopt clean energy technology. And as a result, they've seen reducing pollution in their environments. While we have also spoken about creating a clean and green Pakistan, unfortunately, we are embracing coal-fired power. We have to ask ourselves, can cheap electricity ever be a substitute for breathable air? And on that note, it's goodbye.